Hey, Sandy and Mike. Certainly wish we were having this discussion in Nashville, but this will certainly do. I do want to thank you both for joining. I know I'm excited to talk to the two of you. Both of your companies have a large percentage of your accounts monitored, which leads to many different efficiency and operational gains, but also different strategies and perspectives. I also know that a lot of folks on here, tuning in across the country here, are interested to hear from the two of you on topics like deployment strategies and marketing and how technology has helped impact the business in various ways. So let's dive in. How about starting us off, Sandy? If you could introduce yourself, where you're located, the size of your company, maybe a little background on yourself and your role with the company.
Yeah, so I am with Northdale, and I am the propane operations administrator for the company. I've been in the propane industry for the past 15 years. We're located in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, and we currently have roughly about 3,500 customers spread out through North Dakota and Minnesota.
Thanks, Sandy. And Mike?
Yes, I'm from Smith Station, Alabama. We serve 10 counties in Alabama and Georgia. We have approximately 2,500 customers, pump about 1 million gallons. We're monitoring about 480 at this time. We've been in business since 1962. It's a family-owned company, been in business for a long time, and I've been in it 30 years. My grandparents started it, and I've done everything from service work to driving a truck to now managing it.
Excellent. And Mike, starting with you here, obviously you just mentioned you're in Alabama and Georgia. At what point did it make sense to implement monitoring on a large scale?
Well, for us, we actually started out by trying it on our commercial accounts. And as we've seen how it cut down on the number of stops, and how we saw the drivers liking being able to get there and pump a full tank of gas, instead of going by and just pumping 50 to 100 gallons. They were going to those sites and pumping 60-70% of gas. So we started saying, it's going to make sense to put it on our residential automatic field. And that's what we've been concentrating on for the past year.
Absolutely. And obviously with hundreds of accounts being monitored, how has the scheduling for deliveries changed with more and more monitors out in the field?
Well, we noticed that when the driver's going out, he's either filling the tank as a wheel call, or it's coming up because it's needing gas on the monitor. Before, a lot of times we were using the degree days and the routes were sent us by customers. We'd get there, we'd try to keep from letting them run out. We was running them at 45%. Sometimes the driver was getting there and it's on 50, so he's automatically filling it when it was on 50. And sometimes he'd get there and it'd be almost out. So with the tank monitors, it lets us know exactly how much is in it. He goes by at that time, so he knows he's putting, at 60% in the tank, normally 55 to 60% he's putting in the tank instead of just 20 or 30.
That's great. And Sandy, what about you? How did you, go about determining the right monitoring partner, and what led you to rolling out monitoring on such a large percentage of your accounts?
We really needed to be more efficient in the region that we rolled out with. In that region, last winter, we had 2 drivers. One was going to be retiring, so that left us with 1 driver with about 1 year experience with our company. And one, we were a little concerned about if we had enough staff to be able to take care of all of our customers. And 2, we really wanted to make sure that we were able to be as easy on our drivers throughout the winter as we could be. So that's why we decided to go with the monitoring that we just implemented this past fall. We've got about 275 customers with those monitors, and the monitors have really taken all the guesswork out for the driver. He comes in every morning, he checks his portal of where he needs to be, and away he goes. It really made his life a lot easier this year.
That's good to hear. And obviously with 4 branches, Sandy, how did you start? How did you decide, which location to start at, which type of accounts?
We picked this region because we were going to have the driver with just the 1 year experience. So with everything being in a portal, he had visible every day. He could look up and see where he needed to be. We picked to put monitors on strictly just our keep fill customers to start with, because we already knew that they were going to be needing those deliveries on a regular basis, and then we just work our will call customers into the routes as they call in wherever the driver is currently going.
That's great. You both, Mike and Sandy, both mentioned drivers there several times. I always love hearing from the driver's perspective. What's the feedback that you guys have received or heard from the drivers themselves? Obviously, driver sentiment is important to the business, and I'd love to hear what some of the feedback has been from the drivers. Mike, I'm sorry, we can start with you.
Okay, yeah, our drivers love it. I still get on the truck some. It's the main thing that they know is that when they go to a house, they back into the driveway, and we have a lot of long, windy driveways, as everybody does, backing in off the road, getting in there, and then they used to go out there and not have to pump gas. They'd go out to the tank, find it on 50, 60%, have to get back in the truck and leave. Now they know they're not making that backing in there for no reason. They're backing in there for a reason. They know they're going to pump gas and leave, and that's another thing. The customers like it because they're not coming into their yards as much and stuff like that.
Excellent. And Sandy, how about from your team?
We were a little concerned on how our drivers were going to interact with the program. Our drivers don't like change a whole lot sometimes, so we thought it might be a challenge this winter, but surprisingly it's come back that our driver absolutely loves having the monitors on the tanks. We've even had our other drivers call multiple times lately, and when are we getting the monitors? We want them on our tanks. Just finding that it really simplifies their day on where they need to be, how many deliveries they need to be. If they don't have to pull that hose out 50 feet, tromping through snow, knowing that the customer is sitting good in their tank percentage-wise, they can move on to the next one and swing back around to the other customers that need it later on. They're really excited. So it's actually making my job a little bit easier.
That's always good. And Sandy, are you having the drivers do most of the deployments, or are you having service techs? What was the thought process and the rollout strategy on getting these things out in the field?
Yeah, this year when we deployed, like I said, we were a little behind the 8 ball. Our winter hit us a little bit earlier than expected. So we had our driver installing the monitors as he was making deliveries. If the customers weren't in need of deliveries, we still gave them a route report. He took the boxes of monitors out with him, and he just installed them as he was at the houses. He would write the serial number to the monitors down on the delivery ticket if one was made. Otherwise, we had a spreadsheet that he just wrote the customer's name next to the serial number on the monitors there. And that's how we were able to update information back in the office through the portal and transfer everything over into the customer's name.
That's great. That's a great strategy, Mike. How about from your side of things? What was your strategy in getting several hundred monitors out into the field?
We've done very similar. We started out during last summer, started putting them out, and it filled in some of the work time there where we weren't busy yet. And then as we got into the winter time, we had them on most of the keep field by that point. But when the driver went by a keep field that didn't have it, he went ahead and put it on there. He always kept the equipment in the truck so that he could automatically put one on if it needed it.
Excellent. I'd like to shift gears a little bit, talking about more on the marketing side. I don't know, we're not going to bring Chris back in just yet, but Mike, how are you marketing and getting your customers engaged in the consumer app?
We actually started putting it on with Tank Utilities help. They started putting a tab on our billing to introduce it, that we was putting it on, installing it. We also put some bill stuffers in that went out with our statements. We started leaving things on the door hangers on the door. When we install a tank monitor, we have a door hanger that explains the installation procedure for the app for the customer, and also tell them if they can't do it or don't understand it, to bring it in to our office and we handle it for them. And a lot of times we can handle it by phone. But we've gotten a lot of great feedback from that. The customers love being able to get an email and looking at their app without going to the tank and lifting the dome.
Absolutely, yeah. Sandy, are you doing anything differently on the marketing side and promoting this to your customers to engage with them?
Yes, when we first started out deploying the monitors, we did a little welcome letter and a flyer kind of introducing the monitors and that we would be out within the next few weeks installing these monitors on their tanks, and then, to call with questions. And we did. We got quite a few questions of people just wanting to know what the technology was all for. Not many other competitors in our regions are rolling out with these monitors, so it was pretty new to all of our customers. At the time of deployment, we were also leaving the door hangers for the customer, letting them know, what app to download on their side to let us know if they have questions. We'd talk them through and help them every step of the way. And recently, we have sent out postcards to all of our will call customers in that region in attempts to get them to convert over to Keep Fill and try and make it a little bit easier on our drivers for this next coming year. And it's working. I've fielded 15 phone calls in the last 2 days, and out of the 15, I've had 3 say that they'll call me back later on and to think it over. But everybody else has jumped on and said they absolutely want to monitor, and they're really excited to have it.
Yeah, that's actually a great segue. Are you, Sandy, and starting with you, Sandy, are you targeting any will call customers? Are there ways to utilize the monitoring to help convert some of those, pesky will calls to automatic?
Yeah, so those will call customers in that first region that we started out with, I sent out 265 postcards last week. Many of them have started calling already this week, excited to be able to do it. And I think our customers just really needed someone that they could talk, either in person with or through the phone on what it exactly means to be a Keep Fill customer. A lot of times in the customer's eyes, they feel that just because they're Keep Fill doesn't mean we're going to come out every week and fill up their tank, whether they need 10% or 15% put in there. That's not our goal with our company. Our goal is to be able to save them as much money as we can by limiting the number of deliveries every year that they get. So I think once the customer hears that, they're much more acceptable to the idea of getting a monitor and being on a Keep Fill program. They're really liking the technology and how easy it is to be able to use.
That's great to hear. Yeah, and obviously, as you guys are both continuing to grow and expand in different regions, it's always interesting to hear, how are you promoting the monitoring service to both new and existing customers? Mike, are you charging your customers at all to be a monitored customer? Are you packaging it in any other way?
We are charging some of our customers based on their usage. on their propane usage is how we're basing our charge. We are converting a lot of wheel calls from two automatic and monitored customers through when they run out of gas. We're able to, because they're paying additional charges for the out of gas, and normally they equal more than the monitoring fee does. So we explain that to them. They can save themselves being out of gas and waking up to a cold shower and no breakfast by getting the monitor on there, paying less per month than 2 or 3 out of gas, what we call habitually out of gas customers. And we've been able to convert a lot of them that way.
Certainly, helps provide a solution to the issue when you're having emergency fills and you're able to provide that monitoring as a service. That's great. I love that, Mike. Sandy, are you packaging this in any certain way, charging your customers?
We currently are not charging our customers. We're using it more as an efficiency on our end so that we can save time for the drivers. We'll save on the labor that way. We'll save on the expense of the equipment being used less. And with the customer hearing that they don't have to pay anything, they get pretty excited over that. We look at being able to save money just off of the efficiency instead of charging the customer.
Absolutely, it's a good differentiator for sure. So I'm curious to learn and dig in a little bit deeper with the both of you to understand how you each start your day. What's your daily workflow like using some of the monitoring data to your advantage? Mike, we can start with you.
Well, I really have a home office that I work out of it in the evening, so I'll come home after I finish my day, and I'll sit down, I'll import all my readings from the monitor, from the OPS into my software. My software company integrates with it. Then I do route sheets. On those route sheets, after I import the information, I can look at the route sheets and I can design him a full route. I can design my drivers a full route so they're pumping a full truckload almost every day, if not more than a truckload. That I can arrange his route so that I make sure that he's pumping and that we're not going to have to go to the same area the next day just because the monitor went off or something like that.
That's great. Having the ability to access this wherever is obviously paying off for you, Mike, and allowing you to get a jump start on that day in the week. Sandy, yeah. What's your workflow like?
Every morning, the driver checks the portal. We've got it divided out for him by routes and who is due for a fill based on their percentage. Our integration just finished this week, so we're still playing around with that to see how we can use that to the best of our ability. Our drivers get a route report every week so that they know weekly where they need to be and kind of plan their days from there, whether it makes sense to them to go one direction versus the other. I know our driver, like I said, he checks it every morning, but I honestly think he checks it about every other hour just because he likes the visual aspect of it and he likes to be able to see where everybody is sitting percentage-wise.
I love that. That's great. And Mike, you mentioned briefly about your integration. How are you leveraging the integration between your back office and our portal and all the data information? How are you using the two in conjunction with each other?
Well, how mine integrates into our route sheets is when I import the information from yours, from the truck, from the tank utility monitoring website, OPS, when it automatically enters the percentages into my program. So I'm able to use my daily route sheets. I'm able to choose 25% or less, and it's going to print everybody that's on the monitors, it's 25% or less. and I can send them to every customer, regardless where they are, if they're needing gas like that. As far as one of the main things I can look at though on the OPS portal is it gives me an estimated date of fill. So if I know that customer's route day is not coming up for quite some time and he's needing service sooner, I can go ahead and create an order and have the driver out there soon. Even if we're like in the area or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when did, at what point did you launch the integration? Is it with Suburban that you're using on the back office side?
Yeah, Suburban, we almost integrated with them immediately. We haven't had any issues. I think once we started, it was integrated. We never had a point that we weren't integrated.
Awesome. And Sandy, what are you, I guess, most looking forward to in having the integration complete and getting that rocking and rolling?
It's going to save a lot of time on our office staff running those route reports. This past winter, we would run our route report, but then we would check each name on that list versus the portal, mark them off if they didn't need a delivery or write down the percentage that was in the tank for the driver. And depending on the day, that could take 1 to 2 hours to get all completed for one driver. This way, with the integration, we should be able just to upload that information right into our back office, and with a couple clicks, print a report, and it's right there. I'm really excited to see what the reports look like once we have everything finalized on our end versus the visual aspect of the portal. I think it's going to end up being an employee preference if they would rather have that printout or if they would continue to look at the portal, especially with the new feature in there of the schedule, where it tells you exactly what tank needs to be filled on what day. So we're going to play around with that and see what we come up with.
That's great. Yeah, obviously making more and more lives within the organization simpler and easier by the day.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in here, Colin, if that's okay. We got some user questions, and just a reminder, you can click on the question mark to the right-hand side if you have any questions for Mike or Sandy. So we had a question, and this is probably something it's probably relevant to the discussion now. But when you think about delivery efficiency and your routing in general, how do you factor in regions and travel distances in terms of how you build your routes to go after somebody? Specifically, they're kind of asking, like, do you skip over certain ones based on kind of the monitoring data, when you're routing your trucks? And maybe we'll start with Mike.
Okay, we already had a route system set up before we done this. It was geographically worked for us. For us, when we run the route sheets, we're running a certain percentage now, and instead of running, like I mentioned before, 45, 50%, make sure we don't miss anybody, we're running route sheets off at 30% or 25%, depending on the number of gallons. And then we're adding customers to it that might be on other routes that we're showing up that's getting close. But that's how we're doing it, and we're seeing a lot of success. We can also see like a customer that may be at 30% that showed up on the route. We can look at the monitor, the OPS portal, and say, okay, this customer, even though they're at 30%, they still have enough gas to last them 5 months. So we're not making a trip by there if we have already, if we're having like 2,400 gallons per pump, we can take that customer off, save it for next month when we might not be as busy, and catching the customers that are in a greater need at that point.
That's great. And, I know we've seen a lot of propane marketers, especially put out, customers that are far away, having that monitor is really helpful with that. Sandy, what are you guys doing, and how do you guys think about it when you're kind of balancing that efficiency versus, delivery gallons equation?
So each one of our regions, each driver has a 4-route system set up, so that they could do 1 route a day if needed, and then have that 5th day of the week for emergency call-ins or catch up of something that might have been missed throughout the week. And we set our portal up to mimic what our back office currently had. So there wasn't a whole lot changing on that end for the drivers. And looking at that portal, our customers, depending on the time of year, if we're in the heart of winter, they may need that delivery every 3 weeks. But if we're not, then we can just skip over who doesn't need the delivery right away and move on to the next person.
Got it. Good. Well, Colin, I know you have a few other questions, but I'll make sure to monitor all the questions coming in, and I'll jump in towards the end.
Awesome. Yeah, feel free to jump in whenever, Chris. I'm sure this is kind of one of the questions I was more curious about. I'm sure, like many of us, your daily routines have changed a little bit due to the current situation with COVID-19. Has there been an instance over the past few weeks where utilizing the monitoring technologies has helped at all, that you can pinpoint? Sandy, maybe start with you.
Yeah, the monitors have helped greatly. We're not sending the drivers out if they don't need to go. We got spring a little bit earlier this year than what we kind of expected, so it is slower compared to when it usually is. So we're limiting those driver deliveries to kind of limit the impact that the driver may have with customers.
That's great. Obviously, measuring and knowing when to service your customers, but also providing the safety and assurance with your employees is paramount. Mike, how about you? Anything on your end?
Pretty much the same. We're monitoring it as they need it. We're making sure. We have had customers that call us in a panic, worried about not having enough gas if we're locked in and stuff like that. And that was one big help. We're sitting in our office looking at their gauge instead of having to send somebody out there and saying yes, or you got enough, or anything like that. We're able to monitor it through the software. So we were able to assure them, hey, you got 60% of gas, you're going to be fine, stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's the beauty of technology like this that's available to us in this industry. It's no longer just a preventative run out measure. It's not just an efficiency measure. It's an operational efficiency across the board. And you guys are both, using it to the fullest extent across your customer and employee side. I'd like to know if you each had maybe some advice to our audience about taking that leap from monitoring a select few of customers, maybe the furthest away or your troubled accounts, to really rolling out a large scale deployment. Both of you have done it and also in the process of rolling out more in the future. So I'd love some expert, insight into that. Mike, maybe start with you on this one.
I'm sort of biased towards tank utility because that's who we use. We started looking several years ago for a monitoring service, and we tried to get somebody to give us a straightforward price. We was at the show in Atlanta, as a matter of fact, and we walked around, we'd see tank monitoring, start talking to somebody about the cost, and they would sort of beat around the bush and couldn't say, well, that's around this, around that. When we got to the tank utility, we asked the same thing. We was given the price right away. This is how we can help. And after talking a little while, we decided to go ahead and try a couple of monitors, see how they work. And we decided to use them on our commercial customers first. So one in particular, it was a hardware store out of ways. And I know that first season we went from probably just the first 6 months, we went from making 6 trips down there to 6 to 12 trips down there to making like 2 trips. And the reason why was we was going down there to make sure that they didn't need gas. And most of the time, that's what we discovered. We were just making sure they had enough. And where with this, we weren't going until they did. And as we kept building on it, we said, okay, this customer here, this residential customer, we're having an issue with going down there and they're almost out. They're mad at us because they're almost out. So let's put one here and try it. And as we built, we just started ordering 50 at a time and putting them on. And like I said, we're really seeing a good payoff for it. I think from based on what I was paying to this, we're covering all the charges, all the extra charges and efficiency.
That's great to hear. Sandy, anything from you on this?
Yeah, we had spoken to a few different monitor companies prior to signing up with Tank Utility, and it was really hard to talk to with some of those customers or those companies, because I remember one in particular came to the office and said, well, these are our monitors, here you go, do you have any questions? And I thought, well, yeah, I have a ton of questions, but I don't know how any of it works. And another company we had dealt with in the past, them too, as I called with questions and kind of explained what I was looking for and how I wanted to make the efficiency much better for the company, but also at the same time making the routing easier on our drivers. That company that we previously had been doing business with just pretty much told me, sorry, I can't help you. So when we met with Tank Utility for the first time, and they handed us a monitor and said, here, take it home and try it, I kind of thought, really? Like, okay. And once playing around with the monitor and being in the portal and seeing how visibly easy everything is to understand and to operate, and really the support that we've received every step along the way between integration or asking different questions. And I'm sorry, guys, I did have many questions along the way of how everything works and why it works to understand more. Tank Utility was really great to answer every question that I had along the way and really built a partnership relationship with us instead of just being a company selling us a product and walking away.
That's great to hear. And Colin, if I can interject, I have a few questions from the audience that we can ask. So one thing I'd be curious about, you kind of mentioned some of the accounts that you started with. Mike, you kind of were talking about the hardware store and others. How did you decide it? Like, did you look back at your data to decide where to put it in? And maybe we'll start with Sandy here, but I'd just be curious how you decide which customers got the first monitors and how you kind of built from there.
We started with one region, all of our keep fill customers, no matter what. They were already signed up to get an automatic fill throughout the season. So with having a monitor on there, that we can have the ease of knowing that we didn't need to rush out there to take care of them just in case their tank was low, for us to be able to look up in the portal and see exactly how much is in there, whether they've got 50% and we can skip them until the next time we're going to be out in that area, or even the next 2 times. That helped greatly with that aspect. We are looking at moving into our second region, and there we are going to be doing all customers that have our propane tank or are a keep fill customer. Like I said, we started out a little late in the year, so to be able to contact every customer in our first region that own their own tank to try and be able to get a monitor placed on there, we have quite a few in that region that like to shop around. They like to have that flexibility. So that is why we went with just the keep fill customers in that first region.
That's great. And Mike, you mentioned commercial being the first ones there, but as you expanded to commercial, like how did you decide which residential or what other types of customers were the first ones?
My rep with Tank Utility, Raj, he and I took some of our data that showed the number of deliveries, the the number of deliveries made per year, the number of gallons, and we determined where our best efficiency would be to eliminate eliminate trips and be able to pump the gas. So, for instance, a customer that may have been getting 4 deliveries and getting 400 gallons, we've cut it out where we're delivering 150 gallons each delivery, so we're making about 2.5 stops for that customer in a year to make the same 400 gallons instead of making 4 stops for the same 400 gallons. So we took that data that we was able to pull out of our Suburban software and make the decision of which customers to put them on. And as we progress, that the number of stops versus gallons got smaller, so that we were covering more of our tanks as we went along.
Yeah, Mike, that report that you were alluding to, the delivery history analysis, is this super valuable tool to look at as you roll these, monitoring out at a larger scale across your customer base, because it kind of zeroes in on some of the accounts that you might not be as in tune with across the entire years of prior history delivering.
That's correct. And like we had some customers that they would really only need 1 delivery every 2 years, where we were making a stop every year just to top them off. Now instead of going by that 250 tank, putting 100 gallons in each year, we're waiting until next year and putting 150. So you're making your delivery per stop, your gallons per stop is going up. And I think before we had tank monitoring, I think our gallons per stop, if I can remember correctly, was around 90 gallons. And I think at this point, at this year, and this is including all our customers, our wheel calls and our keep fills, I think we're at 140 gallons right now, 135, 140 gallons per stop.
Oh, that's really cool. That actually goes into a second question that actually kind of came up, which was, how are you measuring the ROI of pre-monitoring and post-monitoring? So Michael, it sounds like it sounds like you were kind of looking at the gallons per stop.
That's correct.
Are you looking at any other metrics?
Mostly gallons per stop. I mean, that's where our money is. Every stop costs us. So that's what I'm basing it on. The other is being able to gallons per day is what I'm looking at. I'm trying to make sure that truck is booked out every day.
Got it. And Sandy, how are you guys kind of factoring in kind of ROI? Is it on the gallons like Mike? Is it time savings or anything else? I'd be curious.
We're using the efficiency part in the portal that lets us know how many deliveries we're saving based off of the deliveries we do make to the tanks. We also do, I submit a weekly report letting our boss know exactly how many gallons are being delivered per day each week out of each region. And like I said, last year in that first region we started with, we had 2 drivers that between the 2 of them were averaging maybe 8,000 gallons a day in the middle of winter. Now we've got 1 driver rolling full time, and he is easily doing 5,000 to 6,000 gallons a day on his own. And he's not overly stressed out. So it's not that he's working from sunup to sundown. He's able to put in his regular scheduled day, make the necessary deliveries that are needed, and still be stress-free, not running customers out. And that's a big part, is being able to make our employees happy just as much as we can make our customers happy.
It's so interesting to hear the very many ways of categorizing and looking at efficiency and how it's improved the overall business. That's great to hear, Sandy and Mike. Chris, are there any other questions, or I guess Mike and Sandy, anything else that you want to touch on today?
I guess my advice would be for anybody that's listening and is looking at possibly expanding and getting monitors for their tanks. When you're looking around at companies, make sure that you're happy with the way that they treat you. You're going to have many questions along the way, and it's kind of a journey, and things are going to pop up from day to day that didn't seem to be important last week, but now this week it's pretty important on your radar. Make sure you've got a company that's going to assist you with what you need, because they're going to be your lifelong partners along this journey.
That's great. Thank you, Sandy. Chris, is there any other questions from the audience?
One question, and I think it's, fair to ask, but just is in terms of, connectivity around monitors. I know, some have had trouble in the past. How do you just make sure you're dealing with that and include that into your deployment process, include it into how you handle the monitors that are out in the field? And Mike, maybe that's a good question for you to start.
Well, like I mentioned when we started, we service 10 counties, and we're near Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning. So we have in Auburn and Opelika, Alabama, which is larger areas. They're not metropolises or anything, but we go from cities to out in the country where there's nothing around. And we really haven't had many connectivity issues. When we first started, we actually tried some Wi-Fi units that we weren't real satisfied with. Tank Utility replaced them. We sort of talked about what services are around. I think ours is connected through Verizon cell services now. I think out of every monitoring that I put out, I think every monitor I put out, we've had one customer that we just could not get a signal from. We can pretty much use our cell phone to determine if we have signal there. This customer there, it seems like his signal would cut on and off through Verizon. We took the same monitor and moved it to another tank, and it worked fine. But this customer, we just haven't been able to find that so far. Other than that, we haven't had an issue with connectivity.
Yeah, and Sandy, how have you kind of felt around it? Just kind of having your drivers go out. How do you handle that?
Well, it's a work in progress in a couple areas that we have, and I'm pretty sure it's just the town area, because it'll be 2 or 3 customers in that same town that either they're way back in the trees and we just keep losing signal from time to time. We do have a region that's very close to the Canadian border where reception is going to be kind of tricky. So with that, Tank Utility has been great to help us get in contact with a partnering company of theirs with satellite monitors. And that will be probably our second or third step as we're going down the road. And we'll be able to use those satellite monitors to connect in through the portals, just like the other monitors that we have. So as long as the driver's got cell phone reception where he's at with the customers, it's not a problem. It's just because of a few remote areas, we just need to do a little rethinking of how we're going to go at it that way.
That makes sense. Definitely the experience that we've seen with folks as well. And no solution is going to be 100% connected all the time. It's a hardware product out in the field. So we appreciate that, and just having a way to combat any issues or test those issues while in the field and make sure that it's working is always key. So thanks for that. Cool. And then I think the other big thing, and this is probably the last question that I saw, was just what are your plans for the future? Where do you see kind of monitoring kind of fitting into your routing systems, and where do you guys see it kind of taking from there for your business? And we'll start with Sandy.
Okay, well, we started off, we've got about 275 monitors out in the field right now. We're looking at deploying another 1,000 by next fall. That will take us through another region and a half, possibly 2 regions at that time. We were very happy and very satisfied with how everything worked for us this winter, that we're willing to put in the extra goal and get the other monitors. The monitors just really make everything more efficient and much easier on everybody.
Great. And Mike, you know, as you you know, look about it, you know, what does the future hold for you?
Our next step is actually putting them on every company-owned tank, regardless of delivery, as far as their delivery request, whether it's automatic or will call. We're going to do that. We're looking at being able to put them on the will calls and being able to contact them through that and saying, hey, you're needing a delivery of gas, let us go ahead and schedule it, so that we're scheduling it instead of the customer, more or less. We're going to try and contact them before they have to contact us. So that's our next step, is that on our company-owned tanks.
Oh, that's great. And you know, I've also heard of people using monitors to make sure people aren't getting filled by other people or other companies, which is always interesting too. But that's great, and you know, I appreciate it. So you know, I think we're about out of time here. Colin, did you have anything else?
No, that was great. I certainly really appreciate Mike and Sandy, you guys taking the time, talking with us. Super beneficial. Awesome to hear from you guys, your point of view, your approaches, and how you're looking at things. So on behalf of all the attendees, certainly thank you guys for your time.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Thank y'all.